Hello and welcome back to this damn idealistic crusade. This is another video going over a haul of titles I got from Mckay's Bookstore with the massive amount of trade credit I'm still working my way through. So I just kind of stop by whenever I'm in the area and peruse through my usual sections, usually series books, film books, biographies, and of course comics and the classics section, not to mention their massive bargain DVD and Blu-ray section. So I found a number of interesting titles. This is the smallest of the hauls so far, but as usual, it's an eclectic mix of items you just don't see turning up, including some boutique Blu-ray releases and some Warner Archive DVD collections, in addition to some nice comics I've been meaning to pick up. So to start with the Warner Archive DVDs, this one was a real surprise, sticking out of the bargain bin, and that is the Fitzpatrick Travel Talks Volume 2 collection. This is 60 Technicolor shorts. I didn't even know the archive had done not only one but two volumes of these, and as you can see, these are extensive shorts, basically Technicolor travelogue shorts that would have played before feature films, mostly tied to MGM films. But this is a really amazing archive collection for them to actually do this type of material, and I think it just didn't categorize in Mckay's system because, as you can see, this was only a quarter, so I was really surprised to see an archive label sticking out of the bargain section, so you never know what turns up in there, but this was a complete surprise, especially since, because it's 60 shorts, this is an archive 3-disc set, so again, you never know what will turn up in Mckay's bargain section. I also had 1947's So Well Remembered, based on the James Hilton novel and directed by Edward Dmytryk, and this is still sealed and was less than $5, and if it's a Warner Archive DVD title and it's less than $5 in good shape, I'm going to buy it because I'm never going to find it again at this cheap of a price, which again was also free. Next is 1951's My Forbidden Past with beautiful original poster art. I picked this up because this is the one main pairing between Robert Mitchum and Ava Gardner, and it's been on my watch list for way too long, so seeing this as a discounted archive title was an instant grab. Then in terms of archive collections, I never thought I'd ever see these in the wild, and they're usually quite expensive because there's a lot of films in here. So they had both Volume 1 and Volume 2 of the Tim Holt Western collections. These are some of the many Western programmer films that Tim Holt wound up going into for the rest of his film career until he basically retired from filmmaking. But these are wonderful collections with lovely artwork, but each contains 10 films across, I believe it's 5 discs in each set. So this was a real shock and surprise to find for only about, $10 or $11 each, and I think these retail for at least $30 to $40 as the MSRP. So I've always had these on my wish list because it's just one of the most extensively stuffed of the archive MOD sets of films that don't really have major physical media releases of good quality or note outside of this. And here for Volume 2, they actually do have custom, really nice looking labels. But again, 10 discs of 20 films for, about $21, which was actually free. So that was astounding. So again, the discount you can get if you're willing to dig around is quite substantial because you never know what's going to pop up there. Then last for DVDs, I picked this up to check the transfer and the audio, and Mckay's is the place where I can go and pick up all kinds of old DVD pressings, usually for pretty cheap if I look around. So I kind of have a sort of a list in my head, or I keep notes on my phone, so there's always a few particular pressings of DVDs and older Laserdiscs, for example, where I'm trying to find different releases of a certain film to check the audio tracks or check the picture transfer or see what that was like, or a release that had specific extras, and if I find it cheap enough, it's usually at Mckay's that allows me to pick up a bunch of variants to then sort of comb through. So they had the original 1998 DVD pressing of First Blood, which does have a version of the original Dolby Stereo track. I'm thinking this is probably going to be very similar to the widescreen Laserdisc I have, which is the best version of the original sound mix that I have, but I've just always meant to pick this up to compare it to the Laserdisc and the various Blu-rays and such, because this film, like all the original 3 Rambo films, have had a variety of transfers and audio issues over the years, and I really do think this first film is great, and its original audio mix needs to be properly restored on a modern release, and the 4K master is definitely a bit screwy in its color timing. So I figured for 95 cents, which was actually free and in perfect shape, it was time to check out the original DVD, and it even still has the chapter insert. So you can even find very mint, perfect condition copies of old DVD pressings at Mckay's for dirt cheap. I've been using this as an opportunity to slowly but surely also chip away at all the various DC direct-to-video animated feature films that I've either missed or not seen, or ones that I've just kind of liked, because you can usually get them for very cheap at Mckay's, who doesn't usually price them all that highly. And again, with having all this massive amount of credit, I'm also looking for things to sort of whittle that down. So I finally picked up the Blu-ray release of Green Lantern First Flight, which is one of the earlier films in this sort of run of direct-to-video features, and it's also got a substantial amount of supplements and was worked on by Alan Burnett. So some of these do have a lot of the bigger names from BTAS attached to them, so I've been trying to focus more on those and see some of the earlier ones I've missed. So when I find these at Mckay's for, on average $2 to $3 for a supplemental packed Blu-ray and a solid DC animated film, well, I'm going to go for that. So I've been chipping away at all the DC direct-to-video animated features. And then lastly for Blu-rays, I found the olive release of Strategic Air Command, which I've been meaning to get for a long while. This is the one title of the Anthony Mann, Jimmy Stewart film partnership that I didn't have on DVD or Blu-ray, and it was shot in VistaVision, of course, but it's also a film that's basically kind of a commercial for Strategic Air Command, so it's definitely the weakest of all of the Mann Stewart films. But again, it's Anthony Mann directing Jimmy Stewart, and they shot it in VistaVision, so there are very fantastic elements to this. And this olive disc is still usually pretty pricey. It doesn't have any extras, which is common to olive. It's in the 1:6 ratio, but it only has a mono sound mix, and I think this is one of the films that could definitely benefit from having a new transfer, but I am curious to compare this to the remastered Laserdisc I have and compare the audio tracks. But this has just been on my wish list for a while, and it was super cheap at Mckay's. Then to close out with a few comic book trade paperback collections, this first one was super cheap and something I've been wanting to read, which is the Dynamite Comics Flash Gordon Omnibus. So this collects, I think it's the first 8 of their Flash Gordon series, plus a couple annuals. It's normally like $30 or more, so it was quite inexpensive, in perfect shape, and I've just been meaning to read through all the other Flash Gordon comics. I've only really read some of the Free Comic Book Day ones, and of course also read a number of the original Alex Raymond strips, but I've been very curious to see what some of the more modern Flash interpretations are like, and this just looked like a heck of a lot of fun, and it was the full omnibus volume, so getting a lot more value for money. They also had the IDW Complete Adventures of the Rocketeer. This is the reprinting that brings together all the original stories. There is, of course, a much fancier deluxe hardcover volume that's also quite expensive, but this has the original 1980s stories, though it doesn't have, I don't think it has the actual comic book movie adaptation. I've been wanting to read all of these. I love the film, but I've only read some of the original stories, not all of them. The one thing that has kind of held me back from doing that is that this and all the other IDW modern in-print versions have been recolored, and that's something that really bothers me. This does look quite good, but I kind of just picked this up because I really want to read the rest of the stories, and it was really cheap, plus it was also free, but I do want to get at least the original trade paperback collection, which has the original colors, but those are getting more difficult to get, and they're usually kind of pricey. It's hard to get one that's not beat up, and of course the original issues themselves are much more expensive, but I figured until that point that I get with the original trade paperback, which I think is from about 1990 or so, this would be at least my opportunity to read all of the stories in one go in nice quality, but of course dealing with the fact that they have been recolored. So I know I'm not alone in being iffy on recoloring of comics, but with it being the Rocketeer and it being such a particular style, I just can't help but get the feeling just flipping through these pages that it kind of has a little bit more of a modernized look and feel to it. So again, I just picked this up because it's a nice condition copy and I had all this trade credit, but I will be comparing this hopefully soon, someday, to the original trade paperback. And then last but not least, they had not only a sealed copy, but the hardcover version of the last Batman 66 crossover with Steed and Mrs. Peel, the original proper Avengers. This is one of the volumes like the Green Hornet crossover I picked up that are not contained in the Batman 66 omnibus that I'd like to get someday. But I've been really wanting to read this. I do really enjoy the Batman 66 series, and I've read the Green Hornet crossover before, which I really enjoyed. So I was just super curious to see them get paired up with Steed and Emma Peel. And again, this is the hardcover version. It's still sealed. It was only $10 to begin with, which is super cheap for a hardcover comic, but it was still sealed, so this was a no-brainer. So that's it for my third Mckay's haul with this massive amount of trade credit from their 50th anniversary celebration. This is a smaller amount, but of course I just was running through the store quickly and still managed to find a number of things I didn't expect to ever see in the wild for super cheap, which was also, of course, free and helps me to further whittle down this trade credit that also helps me to keep from going overboard and just trying to buy everything in the store, which I think most any collector of physical media will want to do when they go into Mckay's bookstore. So as always, I hope my babblings about physical media collecting, films, DVDs, Blu-rays, of course, comics as well, has been at least somewhat fun and informative. If you have the ability to visit a Mckay's bookstore in either Tennessee or North Carolina, I strongly suggest you do so. I refer to it as the black hole of physical media with good reason, because you simply never know what will turn up there. And if you're willing to dig around and spend at least several hours there, you're going to find something on your collection wish list at a supreme discount, or things you're very interested in for dirt cheap, but you have to be willing to dig around one of their quite massive stores. But it's definitely worth your time. Please check one out if you're ever in the Tennessee or North Carolina areas. Also, as always, please do keep supporting your local independent bookstores, comic stores, record stores, wherever you're able to find physical media, because they need all your help and support. Keep spinning your discs in order to help keep both film culture and physical media alive. And as always, thank you ever so much for watching.